If you're reading this because you found it folded into the back of a drawer, or because I finally got brave enough to hand it over, here's the deal. I'm not asking you to believe in monsters. I'm asking you to believe in a town that went quiet on purpose, and in a thing smart enough to enjoy the silence it created. I'm Dean Johnson, Denver born, retail by trade, gym by habit. One of those guys who thinks deadlifts can fix anything life breaks. They can't, but they can keep you from shaking when you're tired and scared and pretending you're fine. I took a transfer to New York State in early spring. It wasn't some poetic reinvention. It was a promotion on paper and a pay bump that felt like a win. The store chain needed someone steady to run a location up north in a small town where the main street looked like it had been preserved in amber. Diner, hardware store, barber shop, the kind of place where the high school mascot matters more than state politics. The town was called Linden Falls. That's not the real name. I'm not trying to send thrill seekers there like it's a haunted house attraction. It's a town with people who still have to wake up, pay bills, and pretend nothing happened. I rented a little house on the edge of town, white siding, grey roof, one car garage, back porch facing a tree line that melted into state land. The realtor called it quiet. The neighbors called it out of the way. I called it perfect. After years of apartment walls and sirens and someone else's bass thumping through drywall, I wanted quiet like a drug. The first week delivered exactly that. Sunny days, that fresh spring smell like wet soil and thawing leaves. Nights still cold enough to make you pull the blanket up to your ears. I ran the store, learned the locals' names, ate too much diner breakfasts, and lifted at a small gym that smelled like rubber and old sweat. Comforting, familiar, normal. Normal lasted 9 days. On the 10th night, I woke up because something outside my bedroom window made a sound like fingernails dragging across glass. Not a branch, not rain, not the random pop of a settling house. Deliberate, slow, patient. I sat up in bed and listened, heart going hard and fast like it wanted out. The sound stopped the moment I moved, like whatever was out there could hear the shift of my weight on the mattress. I told myself it was a raccoon with a bad attitude. The human brain is a liar with a college degree. It will argue you into comfort if comfort keeps you breathing. I got up, walked to the window and pulled the curtain back. There was nothing but my own reflection and the faint shape of the yard. Moonlight made the grass look silver and dead. Then, right as I started to relax, I saw 2 points of light, low to the ground near the fence line. Eyes catching the moon, watching me. Not moving, not blinking, just waiting. I held my breath. The eyes didn't shift. They stayed fixed on me, like I was the thing in the yard, and it was the homeowner. I stepped back from the window, slow. The eyes disappeared. I didn't sleep after that. I sat in a kitchen chair with my phone in my hand and a butcher knife from the drawer on the table, like I'd seen in 100 movies and never once respected. When sunrise came, Everything looked normal again. Birds, dew, a neighbor's truck starting, the yard empty except for my own footprints near the porch where I must have stepped out at some point and forgotten. That should have been the first clue. The thing about fear is it doesn't always arrive like a punch. Sometimes it arrives like a missing minute. The next day, I went to work like it was fine. Retail teaches you to smile while your soul is dying, so it wasn't hard. But I kept checking my phone for nothing: texts, alerts, anything to justify the tension in my body. That afternoon, I noticed my porch railing had deep gouges in it. 4 lines, long and clean, like someone had taken a curved blade and tested it. Not little scratches, not weathering. If you've ever seen claw marks in a movie and thought, that's exaggerated, I'm telling you now, real gouges look worse because wood splinters. It's messy. It looks like violence had a rehearsal. I did what rational people do when confronted with something irrational. I asked a neighbor if they had a bear problem. His name was Carl Wexler, older guy, lean as a wire, baseball cap fused to his skull like a second scalp. He looked at the marks, then at me, then at the tree line behind my house. "No bears," he said. "That's not reassuring," I told him. He gave me a short laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "You're new here, Dean. Everything's a bear when you're new. That's how you keep yourself calm." "What is it when you're not new?" He didn't answer. He just tapped the gouges with one knuckle, like he was checking if a fruit was ripe. Then he said, "Get yourself a motion light and close your blinds at night." "Because of what?" Cal's eyes flicked up to my bedroom window. "Because you don't want to get into a staring contest you can't win." He walked off before I could press him. That night, I drove to the hardware store and bought motion lights, extra locks, and one of those cheap cameras meant to watch your baby or your dog. I didn't have either, but fear doesn't care about your household demographics. I installed everything in daylight, feeling stupid, and then sat in my living room after sunset watching the camera feed like it was a reality show where the prize was my continued existence. At 11:47 p.m., the motion light over my back porch clicked on. The camera showed my porch steps, empty. Then something moved at the edge of the frame. Not into it, around it, like it knew where the camera's view ended. The motion light clicked off again. I stared at the screen, waiting for the thing to make a mistake. Instead, my phone buzzed with a notification. Motion detected. The porch light clicked on. Still empty. Then the camera feed went black. Not static, not snow, just black, like someone had cupped a hand over the lens. I got up. I grabbed a knife because I'm not proud. I walked to the back door and turned on the porch light manually. Nothing. The night smelled like thawed mud and pine. The air was still. You could have heard a whisper from 20 feet. That was the other thing. The silence felt arranged. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch, scanning the yard. My motion light clicked off behind me. The porch bulb flickered once, dimmed, then steadied. I told myself it was wiring, old house, cheap fixtures. Then I looked down and saw a set of prints in the soft dirt at the bottom step. They weren't bear, they weren't dog, they weren't anything I could casually file away. They looked like a wolf's paw print, except the toes were too long and the spacing was wrong, and the impressions were deep, like whatever made them carried weight it shouldn't have had. And beside the prints, this is the part that still makes my skin crawl, there was a single human footprint, heel to toe, like someone had stepped barefoot in the mud for one step only. One, as if it wanted me to notice the difference, as if it wanted me to understand. I went back inside, locked the door, and sat on the couch until the sky started turning grey. When I finally fell asleep, it wasn't restful. It was like my brain simply shut down to conserve power. In the morning, the camera feed worked again, like nothing happened. No footage, no record of the blackout, just a gap in time. I brought it up at work because retail has a special kind of intimacy. You learn people by their routines. Linden Falls had routines like a religion. The diner regulars came in every morning for coffee. The mechanics came by at lunch. The high school kids wandered the aisles after school like the store was a museum of fluorescent lighting. I mentioned the gouges to Mara, one of my cashiers, mid-30s, fast hands, sharper eyes. She stopped scanning items for half a second too long. Probably a bobcat, she said, too quickly. Bobcats scratch porch rails now? She shrugged without looking up. Animals do weird stuff in spring. Do weird stuff, I repeated, like cover camera lenses. That got her to look at me, and in her face I saw something older than caution. I saw practiced fear. Don't go making jokes about it, she said softly, and went back to scanning like the conversation had died. At the end of my shift, Carl Wexler was leaning against his truck in the lot like he'd been waiting. He nodded at me. "You bought lights," he said. "Yeah, and the camera. Something covered it." Cal didn't look surprised. "You go poking around out there?" "Not exactly." "Good. Don't. If you start acting like prey that wants to become a hunter, you'll get taught the difference." He said it like advice, like a guy telling you not to touch a hot stove. "What is it?" I demanded. "Everybody keeps dancing around it." Cal rubbed his jaw. "You ever read those yellow papers they sell in gas stations? The ones with alien babies and two-headed deer?" I blinked. "Sure." He nodded. Sometimes they print something that's closer to true than they intended. People laugh at it so they don't have to take it seriously. I remembered a couple of nights in Denver, bored on break, flipping through one of those things and snorted at headlines. I remembered a story about an upright wolf seen near a reservoir. Grainy photo. Ridiculous. Cal watched my face like he could see that memory. "You read about it," he said, not a question. "I've seen stories," I admitted. "Werewolf stuff, tabloids." Cal's mouth tightened. "Call it whatever you want. It's here. And it ain't the movie kind that runs around mindless. This one thinks. This one learns." A car drove past the lot, and Cal stepped subtly so his body blocked mine from the driver's view, like being seen talking about it was its own kind of danger. "Why isn't anyone doing anything?" I asked. Cal looked at me like I was a kid, asking why the ocean doesn't stop being deep. "Because people did," he said. "Once, a long time ago. And then they learned what happens when you corner a thing that doesn't want to be cornered." He leaned in closer. "Listen to me, Dean. Close your blinds. Don't go outside at night. Don't answer knocks after dark. And if you hear your name outside..." "My name?" Cal's eyes stayed flat. "Don't answer." Then he straightened up and clapped a hand on my shoulder like we just discussed the weather. "See you tomorrow," he said, and drove off. I stood in the lot with my keys in my hand and realized my palms were wet. That night, I did everything Cal said. Blinds closed, doors locked, lights on, knife on the table because it made me feel like a person who wasn't helpless. At 12:13 a.m., something knocked on my front door. 3 slow knocks. I froze. No one knocks like that, not unless they want you to feel each second land. I stayed silent. The knocks came back, slower. Then, from just outside the door, a voice said my name. "Dean." Not shouted, not whispered, spoken like someone tasting it. I didn't move. My heartbeat felt loud enough to be heard through the walls. The voice came again, closer. "Dean Johnson." Hearing my last name out there did something to me. It took the fear and turned it into ice. The voice was wrong, not in the sense of a demon voice or a growl, wrong in a more subtle way, like it was wearing human tone the way a person might wear a jacket that didn't fit. It sounded amused. I stared at the door, waiting for the handle to turn. Instead, I heard a soft scrape, like nails on wood, moving down the door frame. Then a sound like someone inhaling right outside the crack. The porch light flickered, and the voice said very clearly, "I can wait." Then the footsteps, heavy, controlled, moved away from the door and around the side of the house, toward my bedroom window. I didn't go upstairs. I didn't check. I sat in the kitchen until the sun came up, my knife untouched, because what was I going to do? Stab a thing I hadn't ever seen? In the morning, I found a smear on the front door, dark and dried. It wasn't paint, it wasn't mud. And on the doormat someone had placed a dead rabbit, neatly, like a gift. Or a warning. I called the sheriff's office. I didn't say werewolf because I wanted to keep my dignity for at least one more day. I said someone was harassing me, trespassing, leaving dead animals, damaging property. A deputy came out around noon. His name was Eli Harker. He looked like every small town deputy looks. Uniform slightly too tight, polite smile, eyes scanning your house like he's already decided what kind of trouble you are. He took notes, he photographed the gouges, he listened to my story with the face of a man hearing about a neighbor dispute. When I mentioned the voice saying my name, he paused. Did you recognize it? He asked carefully. No. How did it know your name? I run the store in town, I said, annoyed. Everyone knows my name. Eli nodded, like that explained everything. He walked the perimeter, pointed at the woods. Animals come close sometimes. Animals don't knock on doors and use last names. He gave me a look that said, "You'd be surprised what people do when they're bored." I could have pushed harder, but something about his tone made me feel like I'd be labeled outsider, dramatic, troublemaker. And in a town like Linden Falls, labels stick like sap. Eli left with a promise to keep an eye out. That night, I didn't stay in the house. I went to Carl's place. Carl lived in a farmhouse closer to town with a long gravel driveway and a barn that leaned slightly like an old man. I showed up before dark, and he didn't act surprised. He just waved me inside like he'd been expecting the knock. "You heard it," he said. Not a question. It used my full name. Carl poured coffee like it was a ritual. "That's new for you, but not new for it. Sit." I sat at his kitchen table. The walls had hunting photos, old rifles mounted above a mantel, and a calendar from 3 years ago, like time didn't matter here. "Why me?" I asked. "I'm nobody." Carl's eyes stayed on my face. "That's why. You're new. You don't know the rules yet, and it likes teaching. That thing's what? Bored?" Carl snorted. "Bored ain't the word. It's proud. It likes control. It likes to see if you'll run." "And if I do?" Carl's jaw worked. "Then it knows you're prey." I swallowed. "So what do I do?" Cal stood up and opened a cabinet. He pulled out a small tin and set it on the table. Inside were dull gray rounds, shotgun slugs. My stomach tightened. "Are those—" "Don't say it," Cal said. "Names give power. But yeah, those are what you think." I stared at them like they were cursed jewelry. "You're telling me to shoot a person," I said. Cal leaned forward. "I'm telling you to survive. Whatever wears that skin ain't fully a person when it wants you scared. But it can pretend. And it will. That's the worst part." I thought of the voice outside my window, the way it said my name, like it was enjoying itself. Carl's eyes softened a fraction. "You got a gun?" "No," I admitted. "Denver apartments don't exactly encourage it." Carl stood, went to a closet, and came back with an old pump shotgun. He set it on the table, barrel pointed away like he respected it. "You're gonna learn," he said. "Not tonight. Tonight, you're staying here." I looked at him. "It will come here too." Carl's smile was thin. "Let it." That night we sat with the lights low, the shotgun on the table between us, like a third person in the conversation. Carl told me things in pieces, like he didn't want to give the story too much shape. He told me about livestock found shredded but not eaten, about a man years back who went missing and was found days later in the creek bed, skin pale, eyes open. like he died mid-scream. He told me about a full moon that made the dogs in town hide under porches. I asked him who it was. Cal's face went still. Don't chase that. Not yet. Why? Because if you accuse the wrong person, you won't just be wrong, Cal said. You'll be dead. Around 1 a.m., the porch light outside Cal's kitchen window clicked on. We both looked toward the glass. Nothing there at first, just darkness, the shape of the barn beyond, the faint outline of trees. Then something stepped into the light. It was tall, too tall. It didn't move like a dog. It didn't move like a man. It moved like something that had borrowed joints and was still learning how to use them. Moonlight hit its shoulders and I saw fur, thick and dark. I saw a head shaped wrong, long muzzle, ears set high. I saw arms that ended in hands that were not hands, too long, too strong. It stood there, perfectly still, looking into the kitchen window like it knew exactly where we were. And then it smiled. Not like an animal baring teeth, like a person pulling their mouth into a grin, showing too much of what they were proud of. Cal lifted the shotgun slowly. The thing raised one hand, one clawed hand, and tapped the glass with a single nail. Tap, tap, tap. Then, incredibly, it leaned forward and pressed its forehead to the window, like someone peering in at a party they weren't invited to. And in a voice that was almost human, almost, he said, "Dean." Cal fired. The shotgun blast shattered the quiet so violently it felt like the world broke. The window spiderwebbed but didn't fully blow out. Double pane glass, strong. The thing flinched back, more annoyed than hurt, like the noise had offended it. Then it did something I'll never forget. It laughed. A low sound, breathy, like a man chuckling into his hand. And it turned and walked. Walked, not ran, out of the porch light and into the dark. Cal pumped the shotgun, hands steady. "He wanted you to see him," Cal said, voice tight. "Wanted you to know it's real." My throat felt raw. He smiled. Cal's eyes stayed on the darkness outside. "Yeah, that's the human part." "What does he want?" Cal finally looked at me. "He wants you to break." I didn't sleep at Cal's, not really. I dozed in short bursts, jolting awake every time the house creaked. Morning came like mercy. I drove back to my place after sunrise, telling myself I'd pack a bag and leave, get a hotel in the next county, call corporate, make up a reason. But when I pulled into my driveway, my stomach dropped. My front door was open. Not broken, not forced, just open, like someone had unlocked it politely. I went inside, heart hammering. The house smelled faintly of damp earth and something metallic. On my kitchen table, laid out neatly like a note, was my lease agreement. And on top of it, a single line written in black ink, in handwriting that looked practiced and careful. Stay home tonight. No signature, no threat. Just the kind of instruction you give someone when you know they'll obey because they're scared. I stood there and realized the most terrifying part wasn't the strength, or the teeth, or the claws. It was the message it could write. I did what any sane man does when confronted with an insane situation. I tried to find a way to make it not insane. I drove to a gas station outside town and bought every trashy newspaper and tabloid they had. I sat in my truck and flipped through headlines about miracle cures and haunted dolls until my hands shook with frustration. Then I found a story buried near the back. Small print, no big photos, just a blurry image of something tall near trees. Upstate Wolfman returns, a local town cursed. It described attacks over decades, always around spring into early summer, always near the same stretch of state land. It mentioned livestock, disappearances, and the pattern of targeted harassment toward newcomers. Newcomers. My stomach tightened. It talked about how the creature displays intelligence, mimicry, and signs of human emotion. I thought of the smile. I thought of it writing on my lease. The article mentioned the old lore, the stuff everyone jokes about: silver, wolf's bane, the moon. But tucked into the sensationalism was a detail that felt like it came from someone who'd actually seen it. The beast doesn't kill right away, it likes to be known first. I sat there with the tabloid on my steering wheel and felt something shift inside me. Fear was still there, but something else joined it. Anger, maybe? The kind of anger you get when someone thinks they own you. I drove back into town and went straight to the hardware store. I bought steel traps, heavy chain, padlocks, and a bag of gardening supplies that included wolfsbane seeds. I didn't even know if wolfsbane was real beyond fairy tales, but at this point, my shopping list was less practical and more desperate. Then I went to a pawn shop and bought a handgun and ammunition. The owner watched me with a long look and didn't ask questions. Back at the house, I did what I'd do with any problem. I prepared. I set up motion lights again, repositioned the camera higher, taped the wires down, and ran a second camera from my laptop. I hung a bell on the back door knob like a paranoid grandmother. I called Cal and told him what I found. He was quiet for a moment, then, "You're still there." It told me to stay. Cal's voice went hard. "And you're gonna do what it tells you to?" I swallowed. "I'm gonna do what I tell me." A pause. Then Cal said, "All right, I'm coming over after dark. Don't open the door for anything but me. And if you hear your name..." "I know," I said. "Don't answer." That evening the sky was clear, the kind of spring sunset that looks innocent enough to make you feel stupid for being afraid. I cooked a meal I didn't taste. I lifted a couple dumbbells in my garage like routine could anchor me. Then I checked the time over and over until the sun finally dipped and the world turned into shadows. At 9:30 p.m., Cal arrived. He brought a shotgun and more of those dull grey rounds. Deputy Eli? I asked. Shouldn't we? Cal shook his head. Law don't help with this. We went over the plan. Not heroic, not clever, just simple. Stay inside, watch the cameras, and if it came in, we'd shoot. I hated that the plan felt like something out of a bad movie, but there's no elegant way to handle a nightmare. Midnight came and passed. At 12:17 a.m., my motion light clicked on. The camera showed the backyard. At first, nothing. Then a shape stepped into the light from behind the trees, like he had been standing just outside the range, waiting. It was bigger than it had looked on Cal's, taller, broader. It walked on two legs now without wobble, like it had decided there was no point pretending to be anything else. It looked up at the camera and raised a hand, one finger extended. A slow, deliberate wag, like a teacher correcting a student. Then it moved forward and, with terrifying gentleness, reached up and turned the camera. Not ripped it down, not smashed it, turned it away from the yard and toward the porch wall. It knew. It understood surveillance. It understood angles. My stomach turned. Cal whispered, "He's showing off." The porch light flickered. The bell on the back door knob jingled once. Just a tiny sound. Then the back door handle moved. I'd locked it. I'd checked it. The handle moved anyway, slow, like a polite person testing if it was stuck. Cal raised the shotgun. The handle stopped. Silence. Then, from just outside the door, the voice came. Clear, calm, almost warm. "Dean, I know you're in there." My skin went cold. The voice continued, amused. "You brought company. That's good. I like an audience." Cal mouthed, "Don't answer." I didn't. The voice sighed, like disappointed patience. "You know what the funny thing is? You humans think you're the only ones who can play with food." A soft scrape, moving down the door frame. Then the voice shifted, closer, lower. "I watched you from the first day, carrying boxes, smiling at customers, lifting weights like strength makes you untouchable." My grip tightened on the handgun, though I knew it was probably useless. "You're new," the voice said. "New men always think they can be exception." Cal's jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle jump. Then the voice said, almost conversational, "I could have taken you the first night. But then what? It's not about hunger." A pause. "It's about ownership." Something hit the back door. Not a slam, not a crash. A slow, heavy pressure, like a shoulder leaning into it. The wood creaked. Cal aimed at the door, and then the voice laughed again, soft. "Go ahead, shoot the door. Make holes. I'll come through the holes." The pressure stopped. Silence. For a few seconds nothing happened. Then the slam came. It wasn't just a hit, it was an impact that shook the whole back wall. The bell jingled violently. The deadbolt groaned like it was screaming. The door buckled inward a fraction. Cal fired. The shotgun blast deafened me in the small kitchen. Splinters flew from the door. Something on the other side snarled. Not animal rage, but a sound that carried irritation, like we'd ruined its fun. Then another slam, harder. The deadbolt tore free. The back door crashed open like a mouth ripping apart. And there it was, filling the doorway. Close up, it was worse than any movie costume because it wasn't trying to look scary. It just was. Fur matted around its shoulders and chest, arms too long, hands ending in black claws. Its eyes were a pale, intelligent amber that held the light like polished stone. It stepped inside like it owned the air. Cal fired again. The slug hit its torso with a sound like punching wet leather. The creature staggered half a step, looked down at the wound, then back up at Cal with something that could only be described as offended surprise. It grinned. "Silver," it said, voice distorted now, thicker, rougher but still speaking. Of course. It moved faster than it had any right to. 1 second it was in the doorway, the next it was on Cal. I saw claws flash. Cal went down hard, thrown against the counter like a rag doll. The sound of his body hitting wood and tile made my stomach turn. The creature turned toward me. I fired the handgun. Pop, pop, pop. The shot sounded pathetic compared to the shotgun. The creature didn't even flinch. Maybe the bullets hit, maybe they didn't. Either way, it didn't care. It took a step toward me, and then it did something that nearly broke my brain. It stood taller, shoulders rolling back, and for a second, just a second, the shape of it changed. Not fully, but enough that the face looked less like a wolf and more like a man trapped under fur. The eyes stayed the same. It tilted its head like it was considering me. "Run," it said almost kindly. "Make it interesting." Then it lunged. I moved on instinct, gym training, reflex, the body doing what it knows when the mind freezes. I ducked under its swipe, grabbed a chair, and hurled it like it would matter. It shattered against its shoulder. I bolted for the front door. Behind me, I heard Cal groan. I heard the creature chuckle like a man enjoying a joke. I hit the front door, yanked it open, and ran into the cold spring night. The sky was bright with moonlight. The air stabbed my lungs. I sprinted across the yard toward my car. Something hit me from behind. That's what I mean by slam. Not a swipe, not a bite. A full-bodied impact, like a linebacker with claws. I flew forward. Hit the ground hard enough to see stars. My shoulder screamed, my face went into the dirt and dead leaves. Before I could scramble up, a heavy weight pinned me. Hot breath near my ear. And that voice, close enough to feel. "Strong," it murmured. "I like that. Makes the fear taste cleaner." My hands clawed at the ground. I reached blindly and my fingers hit something metal. One of the steel traps I'd bought earlier, still unplaced, sitting near the porch because I hadn't had time. I grabbed it with both hands and, with everything I had, swung it upward. It struck the creature's snout. It recoiled with a snarl, more from shock than pain. I rolled out from under it, got to my feet, and stumbled toward the car. The creature didn't chase immediately. It walked, slow, deliberate, because it knew it didn't have to hurry. I fumbled my keys, hands shaking so badly I dropped them. I snatched them, jammed them into the lock, yanked the door open, and fell inside. The creature reached the car as I turned the key. It slammed its hands onto the hood, denting it. The windshield shuddered. I saw its face inches away, teeth bared in a smile that wasn't animal at all. It leaned close and spoke through the glass. "Tomorrow," it said, "you'll come back, you'll check on your friend, and then we'll talk properly." Then it stepped back, letting me start the car, letting me leave. That, more than anything, told me what I was dealing with. It wasn't hunting, it was playing. I drove until I hit the highway. I didn't stop until I saw lights, 24-hour diner, truck stop, anything but people. My hands were numb on the wheel. My shoulder throbbed like it had a heartbeat. I called 911 from the parking lot and tried to explain without sounding insane. I said there was an intruder, an animal, a big one, that Cal was hurt. They sent deputies. They sent an ambulance. I sat on the curb under a buzzing streetlight while trucks rumbled by, and for the first time since arriving in Linden Falls, I felt something close to safety. Then my phone buzzed. A text message, unknown number, just 2 words: "Come home." I stared at it until the screen dimmed. That's no rational reason a creature should be able to text, but there it was, and in that moment I understood something sickening. It didn't have to be supernatural to be impossible. It just had to be smarter than me, and patient, and local. The deputy's truck took me back at dawn. They found my back door destroyed, Cal gone, blood on the tile, shotgun shells scattered, the kitchen wrecked. But there was no body, no Cal. Deputy Eli was there, face tight, eyes darting like he was searching for something he didn't want to see. "He's missing," Eli said. I could hear the word echo in my head like a bell. Missing. That's what towns like Linden Falls do with uncomfortable truths. They file them under missing. It's neat. It's a box you can close. I told Eli everything. Not the werewolf part. Not at first. I described the size, the strength, the voice, the writing, the way it moved. Eli listened, jaw clenched. When I finally said the word, when I finally said werewolf, his expression didn't shift into disbelief. It shifted into something like resignation. "Don't say that," he muttered. "What else do you call it?" I snapped. Eli looked past me toward the tree line. "We call it, don't talk about it." I wanted to hit him. I wanted to scream. But I saw fear there too. Fear and anger tangled up like barbed wire. "You're not the first," he said quietly. "And you won't be the last if you stay." "What about Cal?" I demanded. Eli's face tightened. "Cal knew the risks. And you're just going to let him be gone?" Eli's voice dropped. "If we go into those woods with guns and big talk, we don't come back. That's what happens. The town learned that." I stared at him. "So what? People just accept it?" Eli didn't answer. Instead, he said something that sounded like a warning disguised as advice. Pack your things, leave today. I went back inside my trashed house, feeling like a man walking through the aftermath of a storm. I found my gym bag, threw clothes into it without folding, grabbed my laptop, my wallet, my keys. Then I noticed something on the living room wall, at eye level, gouged into the paint and drywall with something sharp, were words, big, uneven letters. Not pretty handwriting this time, more like a message carved in impatience. I like you best when you run. My stomach rolled. I couldn't breathe again. I grabbed my bag and left the house, but I didn't leave town. Not immediately, because Cal was missing. And whatever else you say about me, I'm not the kind of man who walks away from someone who tried to help me. I drove to Cal's farmhouse. His porch light was busted. The front door was closed but not locked. Inside, the place looked like someone had searched it. Drawers open, cabinets ajar. On the kitchen table, there was a piece of paper, and on it, in Cal's handwriting, shaky, smeared, like it had been written fast, were 3 words: barn, silver, burn. I stood there with that note in my hand and felt my fear shift into something sharper. This wasn't a game to Cal. He'd left me instructions like a man passing a torch because he knew he might not be alive to carry it. I went to the barn. The big door was slightly open. The air inside was cold and smelled like hay and old oil. I stepped in, slow, handgun up, heart pounding. Cal? I called, voice breaking. Something moved in the shadows. Then Cal's voice, real, human, weak, came from the darkness. Dean, don't. A shape shifted behind him, and then the werewolf stepped forward into a strip of light falling through the barn slats. Cal was on the ground, tied, alive but barely. Blood on his face, his eyes swollen. The werewolf stood over him like a proud host presenting a guest. And this is the part that still makes my blood go cold. It looked different, not fully transformed, more blended, like it had pulled itself halfway toward human to make the moment more intimate. The fur was thinner around the face, the jaw less elongated, the eyes still wrong, still bright and knowing. It smiled at me like we were old friends. You came, it said. My hands shook. The handgun felt like a toy. What are you? I managed. It tilted its head. Local. Who are you? I demanded, a voice cracking into anger. Tell me. It took a slow step closer. Does it matter? If I tell you a name, you'll try to make it a story you can control. You'll want a reason, a motif, a neat little box. It looked down at Carl, then back at me. But I'm not a box, it said softly. I'm a tradition. Carl groaned. Dean, don't listen. The creature's eyes flicked to Carl. Quiet. It backhanded him, hard. Carl went limp with a sound that will live in my head forever. Something in me snapped. I fired. The bullet hit its shoulder. It flinched, actually flinched, and looked at the wound like it was offended again. Not silver, it said, almost disappointed. Still learning. It moved, fast. I didn't even see it cross the distance. One second it was by Carl, the next it was in front of me. It slammed into me. That word again. Slam. A full body hit that lifted me off my feet and threw me into a stack of hay bales. Pain exploded in my ribs. My vision went white. The creature approached slowly, enjoying itself. "You see?" it murmured. "I could end you, but ending is easy." It crouched near me, face close, breath hot. "What I want is for you to remember, for you to tell people, and when they don't believe you, that's the best part." It stood, "because then you're alone with it." My hand groped in the hay. My fingers found something hard. Metal. A small can. I pulled it out, an old coffee tin tucked into the hay, like someone had hidden it there on purpose. Inside were dull grey slugs. Silver. Cows. My heart stuttered. The creature saw my eyes flick to the tin, and its smile widened. "Oh," it said, almost delighted. "He taught you. Cute." It moved toward me. I fumbled the tin, open with shaking fingers, grabbed the slugs and, half blind with pain, jammed them into the shotgun Carl had left leaning against the haystack. I hadn't even realized it was there until my hands found it. The creature lunged, maybe finally annoyed that the scene was changing. I fired. The blast hit at center mass. This time, it didn't laugh. It screamed. Not like a wolf, not like a man, like something being torn between the two. It staggered back, claws scraping wood, knocking over tools, crashing into a support post. Smoke curled from the wound, and the smell. God, the smell was like burning hair and hot metal. It looked at me, eyes wide with rage and something else. Fear. "You," it rasped, voice breaking. I pumped the shotgun, loaded another silver slug. Its eyes tracked emotion. It understood instantly what had changed. I fired again. The second hit took it off its feet. It slammed into the barn wall hard enough to shake dust from the rafters. It tried to stand. Its limbs shook. It was losing cohesion, like the shape couldn't hold. It looked at me one last time, and in that look I saw something human. Not pity, not remorse, spite, a promise. Then it turned, not toward me, not toward Cal, toward the open barn door. And it ran. Not on two legs now, on four, low and fast, leaving a smear of dark blood across the dirt. It vanished into the tree line. I stood there shaking, shotgun up, waiting for it to come back. It didn't. I ran to Cal. He was breathing, barely. His eyes fluttered open. "Dean," he whispered, "don't chase." "I'm not," I said, though my voice was wrecked. "I'm getting you help." Cole's hand gripped my sleeve with surprising strength. "Burn it," he rasped. "If it dies out there, burn what's left, or it comes back." I didn't understand what he meant until later. Lore I'd laughed at in tabloids. Old rules, towns keep quiet because they sound crazy. But Cal meant it. I got him into my car and drove straight to the hospital in the next county. I didn't call Linden Falls. I didn't trust the town's neat little box anymore. Cal survived. Barely. He never spoke about it again. And here's the part that makes this story sit in my throat like a stone. The sheriff's office in Linden Falls filed Carl's incident as a fall and a possible animal attack. The barn damage was listed as vandalism. My damaged house was unresolved trespassing. No mention of a creature, no mention of the voice, no mention of the writing. And the next week, under a bright sunny spring sky, the world looking innocent, someone replaced my front door. A brand new door, fresh paint, new lock, like the town was resetting the stage. I left New York State 2 days later. I quit the job, took the financial hit, and drove west until the air felt familiar again. I tried to convince myself it was over. Then, a month after I got back to Denver, I found a yellow newspaper in my mailbox. No return address, no stamp, just there, like it had been hand-delivered. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a small article on page 7 showed a blurry photo of a man-shaped shadow near trees. The headline read, "Upstate Beast spared a man. Why?" And beneath it, scrambled in black ink, handwriting careful and neat, like a lesson, were 2 words. Still mine. That's why I'm writing this down. Not for attention. Not to be believed by strangers. For one person to know if a small town ever feels too quiet and the people there avoid your eyes like they're trained to, and you hear your name spoken outside your door at night, don't answer. And if you ever see something smile at you from the dark, like it's enjoying your fear, leave. Because some monsters don't want to eat you. Some monsters want to own the story you tell about them. And they're smart enough to make sure you never stop telling it.